Mm. Shanti, and good evening, and welcome to a surprise session. Instead of an interview, we'll have a little spiritual talk, and the topic will be creating space in the heart. And so we'll start with a little reflection. When I look at myself through the course of the day, I can choose any day, even what has transpired in the last 10 hours since morning. What is my vision of myself, my understanding? Is it ordinary? Do I check in about my vision of myself? Or is my day like a routine? Do I move around in the world or anything around me, any situations can affect me at any moment? A physically healthy person holds a strong physical core to prevent injury. But if I know who I really am, that I'm much more than what is seen with the physical eyes, that I feel, I think, I'm aware, I perceive, I have values, much more than just the physical. How would the core of me, the core of my identity, is that clear and is that strong? To remain stable in the midst of changes all around me, changes in circumstances, even expectations that are not fulfilled. Where is my anchor of stability, my anchor for a feeling of being completely at peace? So as I look at myself with the many hours that have transpired today, can I learn to diagnose myself? To see what needs to shift inside. To begin at looking at myself creates a doorway, opens my heart, opens my mind to a broader understanding of myself. A strong core as a spiritual being. Is one who can make space for themselves, make space for patience, make space to accommodate, make space for a broader vision beyond the superficial. And it begins with looking at myself inside, me the being. What is my vision of myself? Om Shanti. And welcome to those who joined with us on YouTube and Instagram. So this is a surprise talk instead of our usual interview. And the topic is creating space in the heart. And to be honest, that this has been inspired by some really powerful realizations and experiences I had today. I was having a lovely conversation with a soul, and she was just grasping, acknowledging and grasping that there feels like when she's just trying to be open to recognizing that she's much more than what is on the exterior, just resonates with her, that she is a soul. But there are times when it seems like there's another personality of who I am that's filled with ego, anger, this complete different personality than the original nature of a soul is. And so it was an interesting conversation because a feeling like as if these are two separate identities. How do they actually coexist? And it was a part of this long-standing issue that we have with spirituality, that spirituality cannot actually exist in the middle of physicality. And signs of that is when there's fear about what spirituality is, or when I feel like I don't have time for spirituality. And really what it begins with, and as those may be aware that these talks or these interviews are all based on the foundations of Raja Yoga. And so that the core of my identity in this particular study is really going into the depths of the realization and experience that I am a soul. And what spirituality means is just the study of being a spirit. That it's not my soul, but I am a soul. And it's not something I actually imagine or visualize, which one can do, but it can only take you so far. But for it to actually go deep within, that there's a knowing so deep that even your dreams change, that your awareness of yourself changes in your dreams, your responses change. This is the depth of reality. And when one starts to experiment with that and experience that, and see a shift in their perceptions about themselves and others. This is really what Raja Yoga is about. And so I had this really fascinating experience. I was speaking to a soul that was at work, and she's playing her role. But while she's speaking to me, I was just really experiencing that this is a soul in front of me, and really experiencing their original eternal state, not that has anything to do with their current behavior, their roles, or even the quality of how they're speaking. And just this feeling of this eternal sense of who they are. It's a being of peace, a being that's completely beyond the physical. And it was a feeling like as if I was remembering on behalf of that soul, their earliest memory of who they are. But at the same time, I was having another experience and realization was where they were at, in the body that they were in, and how articulate, and definitely very intelligent, but feeling that I can accommodate where they have come to, feeling very physical, and yet this journey that they have been through just in just a few seconds. And I could just feel the state of the soul having gone through this journey. And it was a very powerful feeling because there was a lot of feelings of understanding, a lot of feelings of a sense of respect, a feeling of being able to accommodate, even though there was a very pleasant conversation. We had to talk about some things that were at work. But it was as if I was living at two different levels of what is here on the physical realm, but something that is much deeper, on what you call the spiritual realm, but it's really consciousness. And it really reminded me back to that original conversation that happened earlier that day. It helped me really see that why we seem to feel that spirituality and physicality cannot exist at the same time, or how we see ourselves. We see ourselves with a very, very small sense of understanding of who we are. And that ultimately begins when I am not aware of my true identity as a soul. And that all I see is just what is on the physical. And yet, countless times, if you haven't experienced that for yourself, but others have shared it, that everyone is looking for so much more than they can find in the physical. And that many, if not, I can't say all, but many are just tired of this aspect of materialism. However, there's nothing wrong with materials and matter. It's my relationship with them that's the issue. But souls who are feeling that just everything around them is not filling them, and that they're looking for a sense of quality of experience, looking for peace, looking for a feeling to be connected, to feel that they belong. And so these are all signs. There's so many signs. I can just continue to list them on and on. To feel that they're not being seen, that they feel that there's this potential that has not been tapped into yet. And yet at the same time, there is still this fear of what spirituality is really about, and not knowing who they are and what journey that we as souls have taken. We're at the point right now in the world, including ourselves, where there's a lot of negativity inside, a lot of sorrow. And it feels like we've come to a point where we just accept that that's who we are. And yet there's still within each being this high standard. And maybe for some, that high standard of how they need to be with others, with themselves, interactions, in terms of just anything they do in life, to feel that they can accommodate when there are shortcomings. That becomes a very big challenge for souls. And any time that they have made a mistake inside, or perhaps maybe responded or reacted in a way that they didn't feel like is really who they are. And then there's this immediate judgment against the self. But to be able to create space in the heart to see myself for my entire journey, that's really what I was really feeling today in terms of seeing that in another soul and really experimenting with seeing that within myself. And so we see ourselves in a very black and white way. Things happen, we don't have a good day, and we just look at what has happened in ourselves and we judge ourselves. Or we do the same with others as well. We just take a snapshot of what we see. And this is the impact of what happens when we are just bound into this very limited sense of self, which we call body consciousness. We're not really seeing who we really are, what we've gone through, and where we're at. And so all that we see in the surface is very easy to make a lot of assumptions about ourselves. Let's not talk about others, but just ourselves. Because as we all know, that how we treat others is really actually a reflection of how we treat ourselves. And so to be able to actually look at myself as a soul is actually a very deep aspect, not esoteric, but it is like a whole world in itself. And one of the things that we do not realize that when we actually become open to maybe I am a soul, maybe I am a spiritual being, that there's some other ideas that we have that have been tacked on there from previous births that we don't realize are also there. Well, if I am a soul, I should be perfect. Like, why am I having these kinds of thoughts? And these are things that many, many students who've just been practicing Raja Yoga have actually noticed and pointed out these ideas we have about spirituality, that, I should be thinking this way, I shouldn't be thinking that way, I should be feeling this way, I shouldn't be feeling that way. So one other mistake that we make in terms of what me as a soul is, my journey, is that I ignore or forgotten that I have gone through a cycle. That experience of my true self, which is completely full, pure, abundant, filled with self-respect and self-worth. But through time, because of being in physicality, taking rebirth, I actually start to lose power. And there comes a point in time when I completely identify with the body that I really decline really fast. But the soul, I shift through time, I change. How I feel changes. I'm still a soul, but my experience of myself changes. This cycle. So to not see myself in such a black and white way, but really to actually hold space in my heart, space in my sense of understanding, and experiment seeing that at that level of what does that feel like, with the aim that I actually shift how I see myself and therefore how I feel about myself. And to really do that in just day-to-day situations to begin with, instead of waiting for some tremendous reactivity to happen, because at that time there's a lot of other habits that again have accumulated and strengthened through time, such as ego. And ego has played its role to try to, as I've used it as a way to protect myself, as a way to create this defense system, valid in its, and has how ego has had to function if I can't really feel the real me. And so having a cyclical understanding of myself, but that I will actually get myself back again. And that's what I was also feeling when I was looking at soul. We're having this conversation, was I was actually able to feel this experience of their original self, where they're at right now, but still their original self that they will get back to. And it wasn't a fantastical or a magical experience. It was I could really feel at that moment as if my heart was creating space. But the one thing that's really important, I've also discovered lately, are these two words that is often used in Raja Yoga: imbibe and inculcate. These are old English words, but they stay with me because with anything that you practice, whether it's something that's like anything that you do in university and school and an apprenticeship, also in this particular study, you need to actually experiment and practice, experiment and practice. Otherwise, you just have a nice experience like I did today. And then that's all it is. It's an isolated experience. But the intention is that I do want to regain, the true understanding and vision of myself, how I see myself, that actually shifts my feelings. So this word imbibe is an interesting word. Is when I have actually this unlimited understanding, eternal truths of who I am, to really just allow myself to sit with that, just the feeling of what that is. Not a lot of intellectual, but just even the simple thing of that I am a soul. I've gone through a journey from fully real self-respect. Through time, I've forgotten myself. I've lost myself completely, become so physical in terms of my identity and my awareness. And I've come so far from the integrity of who I am, just to sit with what that feels like. Taking that time, being open. It is an experimentation. But then at the same time, with that lens of understanding, see myself and see what happens. There is understanding and using that towards myself, how I see myself. And both pieces that are really important, because one is basically something that I use as a lens, but I need to be able to actually use that lens on myself, my vision of myself. And the intention is then my attitude about myself changes. My feelings about myself changes. And the second word is inculcate. And again, it's an old English word, but it means to impress on oneself again and again and again, repetitively. And so I want to practice this and be open to see what happens, because I have had these very long-standing habits about myself. And I don't realize that has created a very, very fixed perception of myself that becomes basically almost automatic. There is an original sense of who I am. And that's a big part of it is, am I at the time in my life where I feel like, no, it does resonate with me that I'm a soul. Maybe I don't always feel it, but I know that really resonates with me. That is this aspect of timing that we've talked about quite often with the interviews, is that there is a timing for every soul when they're seeking their original self again. And that's not something you can force. It's not something intellectual. It's when that time within themselves where their tank is so empty. And so that faith and trust that I'm a soul is a big piece in terms of this aspect of broadening my heart of what kind of soul am I? What kind of journey have I taken? And really taking the time to slow down inside, to let this perspective really sit. Some quiet time, not a lot of overthinking, but the shift that happens, the absorbing, the significance of me, the soul, and the journey taken. What happens when feelings at that level really change? And so creating space in the heart really requires understanding. We sometimes say to souls, it's actually quite painful, oh, just be more patient, or just try not to react. or you should just let go, let the past be the past. It's actually extremely frustrating to be told that or to tell others that, and they have no way to do that. Of course, everyone wants to, but understanding is a huge part of that. But of course, this is beyond tonight's session, but the other part of that is the power of that relationship and connection with my spiritual parent, Supreme Soul. The reason why is because my true state has that capacity to understand very naturally, has the capacity to accommodate, doesn't really need a reason, my original self. But at this time, because I have no power and I have a very false and limited understanding of myself, the power of knowledge gives me a boost to override these old ideas. But in general, I need power. My capacity to access these very natural qualities I have, to be very patient with myself, to be able to be accommodating, to have the capacity to listen, to actually have compassion. All of these qualities actually come when I spend some quiet time with my spiritual parents. And those are definitely then some further aspects of Raja Yoga. But that time with the being who's always in that pure state that I used to be in, it really colors me and actually also helps to remove this altered personality of Rai, the soul man. And so we'll have a reflection now. And I always invite you to be inspired to experiment with that with yourself. How do I see myself? And on the better days, the easier days, the more neutral days is when I really want to experiment. When I don't have all these other, just really emotional or sometimes pretty jarring thoughts and attitudes and experiences that come up that make it a little challenging to see myself. So even as I sit here, what resonates in my heart? Of who I am? Am I just what is seen on the outside? Superficial? Am I just the roles, the job that I play? Am I just defined by the people I know, the circumstances I am in? Because everything on the surface is quite ordinary. And we look for extraordinary moments. Through things that have to visibly look extraordinary, or sound extraordinary, or physically feel extraordinary. Or is there more to who I am? Am I drawn to wanting quality in day-to-day interactions? Quality in quiet moments? Quality in any place I am, regardless of what's happening? Is that what matters to me, is feeling quality in the day, regardless of what it looks like on the surface? If that resonates in my heart, it's a sign I am much more than just matter, much more than just a beating heart. Much more than just doing and actions. Quality resonates with me because I can feel I can be in that quality of experience. It's because I am the being. It's all that truly matters to us at the end of the day. It's what I feel through the day that matters. How I feel. And what I feel. Because I am the being. I am a soul. Even if I'm not aware, even if I cannot feel it, even if I can't see myself, but being, it recharges me because there is substance. Substance and actions, substance and interactions that even at this moment, just become aware I am that being, a guest in this body. That I look for that feeling of peace and lightness. I might not accept that that is within me, but I am looking for that. But beyond the changes of time, when I didn't identify with this body, when the soul felt separate from this body, from the roles, the relationships, I felt free, not attached to the limited, the temporary. I just felt me, the soul, as a being of peace. That stability is my natural nature. Being calm is just who I am. Being light and at ease is who I am. And that's how I was, even while I was in the physical. And become aware of just what has happened to me. I forgot myself. Through time, I've changed from one body to the next, and my feelings changed. My ideologies changed. My attitude changed. And I see me for where I am at, all the ugliness inside, and yet the beautiful hope I have. It's not that there are two of me. It's that I am creating space to see the real me in the midst of what has happened to me. And again, I want to hold that understanding. Take time to hold that bigger picture. with the intention to let my feelings change, to let my perception of myself change. Practicing with myself and even with others. The more I see the broader sense of me and others, very naturally, I will create space in my heart. Om Shanti. Thank you for joining with us this evening. We always encourage you to join for the experience sessions, to really experience the natural sense of me, the soul, the eternal me. Because ultimately, as mentioned, knowledge, understanding plays one part. I really need to accumulate spiritual power. So I need to experience myself as a soul. I need to have such a meaningful relationship and connection with my spiritual parent. So all of these pieces actually come together in a very natural way. So those experience sessions are on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays, 6:30 to 7:30 Calgary time. And we tend to leave the music going for the first half hour and then allow there to be commentary and experimentation in the last half hour. So of course, we also have the Raj Yoga sessions, and you're welcome to visit the center's website for alternating sessions of Raj Yoga in English, as well as in Hindi. But all of that is on the website. So thank you again for joining. Om Shanti.